Welcome everybody to the Breakfast Club of New Jersey. And if any of you are visiting us for the first time, welcome. Glad that you found us today and have the opportunity to participate with our group meeting. And the Breakfast Club of New Jersey, it was founded 20 years ago. And actually our anniversary, I believe, is next month. It was founded by one of our co-founders and our current president, who could not be here today. His name is Frank Kovacs, but Frank and several friends used to meet very regularly to discuss job search topics at a local diner, and they named themselves the Breakfast Club. And pretty much the story was as people, as they worked through their concerns and their issues of the day, they thought about who else they could invite, and the group got bigger and bigger to what it is now. But I believe it's next month that we'll be celebrating, I think, the group's 20th anniversary. And there are now, in addition to Frank as the leader of the group or the president of the group, there are a group of people that are kind of the board or the people that help run it with Frank. And so there are several people that do that as well. I think there are 10 of us all together. And when we meet in person, we usually have a little name badge with our logo, so you'll get to see us. Now you'll just have to accept the fact that we can't do that just yet. We do have an expectation of getting back to meeting in person one day soon, but we will let the current events of the day related to COVID virus and such help dictate that for us. As you participate with us, you'll find that there are a number of resources that we have in addition to our monthly meeting. We do meet, of course, every month on the second Saturday of the month, and you have the opportunity to join us virtually until we meet in person again. When we meet in person, it's at the Days Hotel in East Brunswick on Route 18. For one thing, we have our website, and our website is thebreakfastclubnj.com, thebreakfastclubnj.com. Very important you put that NJ. If not, you'll be seeing some sort of information about a movie that was very popular a number of years ago. And so on the Breakfast Club website, we do have a tremendous amount of information. We also have our speakers list, so you can see who's going to be presenting over the next couple of weeks. And the same speakers list will also have links to documentation that past speakers have provided us. So if you want to download slides and such, you can do that as well. And we do also have our LinkedIn group, also called the Breakfast Club NJ. And the way that you join our group, and I'll talk about the other ways of communicating with us as well, is on the website, there is a link where you can join the group or join group. And so when you do that, that's managed by, hopefully I'm right, it's Adrian who's managing, or unless it's Haresh, I'm sorry if it's Haresh, but yeah, Adrian's waving, so it must be her. So, or at least she'll take full credit for it here. And so when you click the join group button, she gets a message. And there's a couple of fields that you do need to fill in at the join group. It's your full name, your email address, your phone number, and also who referred you to the group. In other words, how'd you hear about us? And there is a requirement that you complete all 4 of those pieces of information: name, email address, phone number, and who referred you. If you skip something, like you say, oh, they don't need my phone number, it's a kink in the process, and you may not get the ability to fully join us. So do put in your full name, email address, phone number, and who referred you. If you don't want to give a phone number that's yours, you can use, let's see, 908-555-1212. That one works very well. That's Middlesex County information, so that'll work good. And if you don't know who referred you, or if you just found us online, feel free to use my name, David Schuckman. Use me as a referrer. Use Alex Freund, the presenter today, as a referral, or anyone else that's on here. So just do that. And then what will happen is you will be signed up for our Meetup Group. I'm sorry, not the Meetup, our groups.io. And your groups.io is the email mechanism that we are using to communicate with each other. In our groups.io, it has a way of you to email us, thebreakfastclubnj@groups.io. and you can introduce yourself, maybe use your elevator pitch. Hello, my name is David, and this is about me. Of course, if your name's not David, you'll pick your name. You can ask questions of the group. Maybe if there's some advice, who knows somebody at the ABC company, that could be helpful. You may have an interesting job description that you received, but it doesn't pertain to you. But you know that it may pertain to some other people. You can copy that out of that email, put it into the groups.io, and share it with other people. So it could be really good positions, it's just not important to you. So the groups.io is a great way to communicate among ourselves, members of the Breakfast Club, to all manner of information that's related to job search and the group and your questions and your struggles and all that with job search. As Frank likes to say, it's not to be used for any non-job search related activities like trying to sell your boat. So don't keep it quite that personal. And also, we do have a LinkedIn group. I believe that when you sign up for join the group, I believe that's your invitation also to join the LinkedIn group, because it is a bit of a private group. But the Breakfast Club NJ LinkedIn group has over 1,800 members in the group alone. And these are all people also that are members of the Breakfast Club. So what's nice about that is it's all people that are very savvy and sensitive to all things job search related. So if you do reach out to anybody in the group, there's a good chance that they will respond to you because they understand the importance of communication for job search. So you'll want to make sure that you do join our LinkedIn group and use it kind of in a similar way as the groups.io. You can reach out and share information or ask advice. Certainly stay in touch with people on LinkedIn. That's another thing that you can do. We do also have Twitter and Facebook, other means for us to stay in communication with our members. And we also have a Meetup group. And some of you are here because of the Meetup group and the way Meetup itself does a good job of informing its members of upcoming events. And in our Meetup group, we have over 3,400 members. So a great way also to stay attracted to and connected to people who are in job search in our group. So there are lots of ways that we are here as a group to help you, anyone in a job search. In just a moment, I will introduce Jerry, who is also on our board for the Breakfast Club and on our speaker committee with me, and that's always been really great to be involved with the group that way. And in just a moment, I will turn over to Jerry. Then Jerry will introduce Alex and turn the meeting over to him. Just want to remind you that indeed, please keep your microphones on mute during the presentation. We just want to make sure there's no accidental background noise that may happen. I don't know if someone's blowing leaves in the backyard or whatever. We're going to try and minimize that. I remember one time someone was talking to their Alexa during a meeting, so had to quickly mute that person. So keep your microphone on mute, but this will be as interactive a presentation as we can. It is possible you have a question during the slides. So what you do is use chat to ask your question. In the upper right corner is a little icon or button. It is the chat button. It is a circle with a little tab, looks like a comic book call out character, which is exactly what they mean to use. And so in there are one of two ways you can do it. You could type the word question, and I will be monitoring chat, and you will type the word question, and then that way I will know that you are kind of digitally raising your hand. And as soon as Alex stops talking and takes a breath, I may say, excuse me, Alex, there is a question, and he'll be able to address that right there. Or if you prefer not to unmute yourself at that point to ask your question, you could type the word question and then simply type the question, and I will read it out loud on your behalf. And I will say, so-and-so has a question, and here it is. And so that way we'll get that as well. We are recording this presentation, so it will be on the group's YouTube channel, if not by this afternoon, by tomorrow morning. Please just have a little patience. We are also downloading the chat file. I'll make that available to Adrienne if she can post that as well. So if you're interested in any of the commentary that's in there as well, that will be there. So now I am just very pleased to introduce my partner in crime here at the Breakfast Club, and that is Mr. Jerry Payton.
Thank you very much, David. We have a very valuable presentation from a great presenter that we've heard from many times. I'll have him introduced right now, known as the Landing expert, Alex Freund helps his clients improve their interview performance by removing their fear so they can feel confident during the process. For the last 15 years, Alex has helped more than 1,100 clients ranging from managers to CEOs in a variety of industries. For the last decade, Alex has been managing and publishing via his website, landingexpert.com, the Landing Expert Directory, a very popular source of job search networking groups. I'd like to now introduce Alex. Alex?
Thank you so much, Jerry. It's always a pleasure to be here. I've been a member, I'm thinking now, I've been a member of the Breakfast Club. I don't know how many years, but I think I joined about a year or 2 years after the start. So that makes definitely more than 15 years that I presented here. And you know, this is where I see my friends. So this is what I enjoy, seeing my friends. And you know, I'm looking at your pictures, and I love the backgrounds. People are very, very creative. People have very, very different background. One of them that I want to point out, which I really, really like. There is somebody with us by the name of Samantha. And Samantha is sitting at home, but she has a prop. It looks like a car, but I know she sits at home. Samantha, are you in a car or at home?
Hi guys, I am in my car. I refer to it as my mobile office. But my house is a little crazy with 2 dogs and some kids and stuff. So I just sometimes have meetings from my car because they are guaranteed to be quiet. And if someone needs me, I can just lock the door and don't get bothered.
Samantha, I
am in my car.
I was hoping you'd play along with my joke and you say, yeah, that's a prop I have at home. Okay, so now we know the truth. Anyhow, look, let's get serious. This presentation is a very different presentation. It's somewhat unique. I haven't seen any presentation like this before. I am happy to say that I have not reached yet making 500 presentations, but I'm very, very close to it. And admittedly, after a while, and forgive me for saying this, but when you do something so repetitively for so long, a little boredom sets in. So I wanted to do something different, and several of my latest presentations are not like what I used to do at the beginning when I started presentation, talking about resumes, talking about networking and so forth. I want to make a different presentation. I want to make it attractive, and most of all, I want to make it memorable and helpful for job seekers. So I hope this is my objective, and I hope this is what you will get out of it. So I call this presentation, Can You Influence the Interviewer? And here are 6 ways you can. So the way this is set up, I'm going to talk about 6 different topics. How you can influence the interviewer. And I'm going to talk about reasoning, logic. I'm going to talk about the reciprocity, herd behavior, attraction and familiarity, authority and scarcity. And forgive me for this slide looking a little different. Just about 2 minutes ago, I made a change. I printed this out here, so I have it in front of me, and evidently I changed the slide. This slide should be better looking. Forgive me for that. Okay, so what is the format of this presentation? I will tell you a story or two on a specific influencer, and then I'm going to talk about helpful tips for job seekers. I'm going to associate the story with how this can help job seekers. The first one is reasoning, logic. So here is a story, and what I'm saying here, when we ask someone to do us a favor, it is more effective if we provide the reason why we're asking that. So I read about an experiment that was done. It was in an office setting. If you guys remember way back, we all used to have like a Xerox room or copy room, and people were lined up there and making their copies. So here comes, the actor of this experiment, and several other actors were in the audience waiting to make a copy. And so this woman just comes into the room. She's not waiting in line. She just puts one page on the copier, pushes a button, takes it out, and she leaves the room. And the people that were waiting in the room were kind of on their facial expression, and what they said was not very complimentary. They were very upset. Who the hell is this woman coming here? There is a line there. You wait in line. Okay. And the actors in the audience, the people that ran this experiment, took some notes. So now they go to a different floor, same story. It's another Xerox room, another copy room. And the same woman comes in and she said, "Excuse me, I need to make a copy. My boss is waiting for it. It's urgent." And then she puts the one page on the copy machine, pushes the button, and leaves. Interestingly enough, the people in the room were very understanding, very empathetic, very reasonable, and they said, "No problem, go ahead." So again, when we ask someone to do us a favor, it is more effective if we provide the reason why we need that. And here is the tip for job seekers. When answering an interview question, provide the reason for your action, followed by a success story for validation. Tell them why. Give the reason. Here is the next story. People think if it is expensive, it must be good. So I read about the story. There is a woman in Mesa, Arizona. She has a jewelry store. And she goes to her employee and says, next week I'm going on vacation, but when I'm coming back, these blue stones in the display case, they don't sell. I want to reprice it. And she goes on vacation. A week later, she comes back and she looks at the display case and the blue stones are not there. So she's asking the employee, "Oh, what happened to the blue stones?" She said, "Oh, you said that you want to reprice it when you come back. So, I repriced it. Actually, I doubled the price." She doubled the price. All of a sudden, all of them were bought. So what can we learn from this? I'll come to that in a minute, but I have one more example. And actually, this example I heard many, many, many years ago from my dad. We lived in Romania. My dad worked for a pharmaceutical company at that time. And one evening, he comes home with a story. So here is a story. One of the pharmacists in a village shares the following story. That a villager, a peasant, it's out in the village, comes to the pharmacy and said, Doctor, please help me. I need something. My wife has a splitting headache. Please, I need something. She's going crazy." So the pharmacist goes behind. He takes out a pill. He puts it in a box. He said, give this to your wife. This, I'm sure, will help her. And the individual said, "Oh, how much do I pay you for this?" He said, $1. He said, no, doctor, no. I want the good one. So the pharmacist immediately caught on and said, "Oh, you want the good one?" He takes the pill in the back. He repackages the same pill. He repackages it. He brings it out. He said, "Oh, give this to your wife." And he said, "Oh, thank you. How much do I pay?" $5. "Oh, thank you so much." Next morning, he's back. He said, "Doctor, this was amazing. 20 minutes after she took this pill, she felt fine." Okay, so people think if it's expensive, it must be good. So how does that help job seekers? Don't lower your salary requirement just to get an offer. And I hear this all the time. People used to make, for the sake of argument, $100,000. But now they cannot get a job and they start devaluing themselves because their thinking is, probably my salary is an objection, and all of a sudden they start lowering their price and they get a job, let's say for $70,000, which is not a good deal because Yes, it's great that you got a job, but 2-3 months later, you said, I used to make 100. Why am I working now for 70? So again, instead of lowering your price, my suggestion is emphasize your ability to make future contribution. It's a marketing job. Another example. Now, here I'm showing you data. This is totally meaningless. I don't know if you read into this anything. All I can see, there are X's there. There are 4 teams. This doesn't mean anything. I don't think you can interpret that. But when I show you this, now all of a sudden, all this comes together. The data is transformed into information. Now you understand what the data represents. Evidently, people were target shooting, and Team A had all the bullets in the bull's eye. Team B, it's all aggregated, but not in the bullet's eye. Team C is dispersed, but Team D, well, they created a very interesting pattern. So all of a sudden, the data that we saw before, which was totally meaningless, now that it has explanation with it, all of a sudden it's information and you can use it. So what can we learn if you are a job seeker? When answering interview questions, provide answer in context, relevant, and share the results and who benefited from your action. Again, don't just give examples, but correlate it, put it in context for the person to understand, similar to the data and when I showed you, the bullseye, etc. One more example, and that's about a little bit about myself. Many years ago, I went to buy a suit at Joe Banks here in Princeton. Let's say I paid $300 for it. I don't remember. I mean, when was the last time I bought, a suit? And I remember the salesperson, I tried on the suit, it was fine. And the salesperson said, oh, by the way, this shirt goes very well with it. Look at it. Now, let's say I paid for the suit $300. Again, I'm not sure how much I paid for it, but let's say $300. So he brings out this shirt that looks really very good. And I look at the price was $45. I said, oh, sure, yeah, let's take the suit and the shirt. It goes very well together. Now, let me tell you, I don't buy shirts for $45. I buy shirts for $25 when they are in sale. But because it was a kind of associated with this, I already paid $300. So another $45, the hell with it. It goes very nice. It goes very well. So my point here is, when we make decisions in life, we always compare it. We need some relevance. How much it 45 versus 300? No big deal. Let me tell you, I don't buy shirts for $45. Just if I go in the store, unless it's on sale for $25, I just don't buy it. So what can we learn from this? Interviewers are comparing candidates and selecting only when you surpass your competition. Remember, doesn't matter how great you are or how poor you are. They selected 3, 5, 7 people to be interviewed. One of them will be hired. And you will be hired only if you appear in the eyes of the decision maker better than the rest. So you need to understand that you're always being compared to other people. Okay, let's take a little break. I want, instead of me talking all the time, I want to hear something from you. So do you have any comments about what we covered so far? We still have 2 other breaks, but let's stop here because I dumped on you a lot of new information. Yeah, we talked about reasoning, but I gave you a lot of information.
So folks, this is an opportunity to ask a question of Alex. Maybe you want to digitally raise your hand and type the word question right in the chat. And doing that, just make sure we're not accidentally talking on top of each other. So if you want to do that, And Joe Levinson. Joe, you have a question? Feel free to unmute yourself and speak with Alex.
Well, I actually have a comment about the higher price people pay for gasoline for premium unleaded, and actually the higher the octane rating, the less energy per unit volume of gasoline, and people don't realize it. Like you said, it's marketing.
Yeah. Excellent point.
By the way, don't read into anything that joining the Breakfast Club is free. That's one of the exceptions to Alex's observation. Anybody else have a question or comment for Alex so far? You can just raise your hand, or if you digitally raise your hand by typing the word question. And here's one from Jean, and I'll read this. Is a suggestion you made in respect of answering interview question applicable to all questions or behavioral type of questions?
To all questions, I would say, to all questions. Again, when they ask you an interview question, please don't say yes, no. That's a wrong way to answer. Find something in context, very relevant. Give very brief background. Don't be too long. Be 2 or 3 sentences, 4 sentences of background. What is what you're going to talk about? Highlight what action you took. What is what you did? And then, very important, what was the outcome? I work with people every day, and I ask them interview questions, and they tell me what they did. And they leave it up to me to think that that was a wonderful thing. No, don't. Make sure that I understand what you did, and make sure that you put it on the table, that your action created some value to the company, and who benefited from it. Was it your boss? Was it a shareholder? Was it your team? Highlight who benefited from it. Because if you say, I am in sales, and in the first 6 months on the job, I was able to raise sales by 17.5%, people will nod their head and they said, okay. But if you say, this was such an exemplary contribution that I remember the following week, my boss surprised me when he invited all my team members to a restaurant. And when I showed up, 17 people were there, and they really wanted to celebrate my major contribution to the company. Now, all of a sudden, my story becomes very, very memorable.
And Alex, you said, don't just answer yes or don't just answer no. But what if the question is one that on the surface, the correct answer would be a yes or a no? Do you expand on that on your own, or do you ask the interviewer, would you like me to give you an example?
I would say the latter. First of all, this is not the CIA interrogation. Did you kill the person or not? Yes or no? That's not one of those. The interview is about communication. They want to communicate with you. The more eloquent you are, the more succinct, the more information, the more memorable information you give them, the better off you are.
Thank you. There are a couple more questions coming in. Here's one from Raksha. Are these recommendations relevant for interviews via Zoom?
Why not? Absolutely. Why not? What's the difference between Zoom and in-person? Unfortunately, the in-person is more liked by people because you can read the other person's body language better. That's the only value. What else is different? The information you share sitting in the conference room with the interviewer, or sitting at home and he or she sits at home, or doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Ravi, oh, I see Ravi has joined. There is a question from Jim. Often on applications, I guess that's job application, often on applications you are asked for desired salary. If you're older and have been unemployed for a long time, how should you answer this question and not take yourself out of the running for an interview?
Jokingly, when I always say when I'm presenter, I always find somebody that I like and I pick on him. This time I'm going to pick on David. David, you make a lot of presentation too. The agreement I have with David is this: easy questions I answer, difficult questions I refer to somebody else. David,
Okay.
do you know the answer to this? Because I really don't have a very good answer to this. I have to admit to you.
So the answer
David,
that
do you have an input?
The answer that I tell people is the job application is not part of the interview process. It's not the offer. It's a screening question to keep you in the running. And so typically I find out what is a reasonable salary range for this position in the location. Of course, geography is important. And I take that as a guide, and I will post, when I used to post on applications, the lowest salary I am willing to accept for this position within the range. I don't want to be below the range because the geography could require a different number. So for instance, if I would like to make 100,000, but if I said to myself, if they offer me 90, I would accept it, I would put 90, because it's not part of the discussion. It's just to keep you in the game. When you get the offer later, you can negotiate if the salary that they offer you is reasonable or not. So that's what I would put. I'm curious, Alex, if you think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I like it very much. I have I work with people that need only salary negotiations. So we spend an hour just discussing this very, very topic. And before I give an answer, I really need to understand precisely what the question is. Sometimes on the job application, there is a field that they're asking, what is the minimum salary requirement? Okay. And it will not let you go to the next question unless you put there a number. So now the question is this: you could put like $1, which obviously you're not willing to answer this, but by putting in $1, it allows you to go to the next field. Or you put there the minimum that you're willing to accept. I don't know if that field is accepting a range. So I don't know exactly how to answer this well. I need to better understand the question.
Okay. We have another question. This one is from Valerie, the person that has your favorite hairstyle. Are companies reducing salaries since people are working from home, or increasing them?
Okay, David, please. I'm not sure if I got that. Okay.
So are companies reducing salaries since people are working from home, or are they increasing them?
I don't have good information on this. I read all kinds of articles. I think we are right now in what I call an earthquake. COVID is an earthquake in the marketplace. Typically, when we use the word earthquake, we relate it to a geographical location. Earthquake in Italy, earthquake in California, earthquake, whatever. COVID is an earthquake globally. There's no human on earth that was not impacted by COVID. And it impacted the businesses. And right now, businesses are in a turmoil. And I feel that given some time, the business world will reach an equilibrium as it relates to salaries, whether they will increase, they will decrease. It's very, very complex, very, very complex. I can tell you this: there is a legal aspect, a very significant legal aspect to you working from home. I am in touch with a lady that used to be a part of my organization way back when I was a director of facilities. Now she is a director of facilities for a Westchester County-based big company. And I talk with her occasionally, and she said, Alex, we have some issues here. Our CEO told our employees that they have to work from home. That has a legal implication. If the big guy said, I need to work from home, I am entitled to some things. For example, ergonomic chairs. And she said, Alex, you would not believe it. 2 of our employees took us to OSHA because we did not provide them ergonomic chairs. It's unbelievable, but you know, people working from home have legal demands because you, Mr. Boss, you, Mr. CEO, you told us don't come to the office, you work from home. So we have some rights. We need a desk, we need a chair, we need whatever. So this is not so simple as it seems.
Thank you. Jean has a question. Is there ever the case to accept a lower salary or position in the spirit of getting back into the game for a long time unemployed?
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Look, I don't like to give a kind of a definite answer to people short of understanding their background. Yesterday, I worked with an individual, very high level executive in a very well known in northern New Jersey, and he's a very senior executive. He has a job. He doesn't have to leave. After 18 years in that company, he wants to explore other things. He doesn't have to leave. So his consideration is very different than another high level executive that for 9 months he's pulling his hair and nothing happens. And then he said, well, perhaps my astronomical salary is a barrier for entry. Let me lower my salary. So again, I hate to give definite answer to such question. I need to understand the background. And yes, absolutely. If you've been out a year and you didn't get a job, perhaps your high level salary is an impediment here. And that's why you may be very good, but at what cost?
Thank you. And here's a question from Joe, and it's almost a complete follow-up to this last question and answer. When unemployed for a long time, it is very challenging to negotiate more salary. I took a lower paying job to get back to work. What tips can you share to keep one's confidence and not lose the offer?
Well, let me come back to what I said at the very beginning. Remember, the interview is a competition, and the interview is a Broadway performance. You really need to be very good at that to convince the hiring manager that you are the person they need. There is a relationship between you and the hiring manager. The hiring manager wants to make sure that if they hire you, you are a benefit to them and that you are the solution to their problem. That's why they are interviewing you. You also have an obligation. You have an obligation during the interview to line up for me the reasons I should hire you. Remember, I'm an interviewer and I have choices. You need to perform so well in the interview that in my mind, it is very clear and I can eloquently explain to my boss. If my boss says, Alex, congratulations, I understand that Valerie is going to join our team next Monday. That's great. Alex, can you please tell me why you decided on Valerie and not Bruce or not Sam? I have to give my boss the reasons why I decided on Valerie. So during the interview, you need to make sure I, as an interviewer, I'm clear on the reasons I should hire you. Okay, now, I think the question was about, I deviated a little, about lowering the salary. Are there reasons to lower the salary? Yes, I would say if you wait too long, that's one option for you to lower the salary and see if that was a barrier. Some people make very big salaries because they have a very long tenure, and because of the 20+ years, their salary has clearly increased and is no longer competitive.
And the question was, so having accepted a lowering salary, what tips can you share to keep your confidence and not lose an offer? In other words,
the confidence comes from preparing for the interview. That's very simple. That's very simple. You gain confidence by your brain being able to say to yourself, you know, I'm good at it now. I can go in there with great deal of confidence and answer all these questions. Why are you losing confidence? Because you're afraid that you'll fail. You're afraid that they will ask some questions and you will not have the answers. So the answer to boosting your confidence is practice, prepare.
There's a question from Ravi, and we'll see if you want to discuss this with him. His question is, what is a better answer to the question, why are you leaving your current job?
Okay. Well, again, these are some questions I discussed, very often because with my clients, and there is no standard answer, but a potential answer, and the direction I want to take is this. Don't talk about your past. Talk about what you can do for them in the future. If we have time at the end, I'm willing to demonstrate this. I mean, the answer is very simple. Tell them what attracted you to them and not what happened in the past. You need to move the answer to them and what's attractive about them and not why you want to leave. Sometimes you can't tell them why you want to leave. I mean, would you tell them that, for 3.5 years I'm working with this bastard, he's making my life miserable. I am on pills every day because I can't take it anymore. I mean, don't say that. But if we have time at the end, if you ask me this, I'm willing to demonstrate this. But let's move on, David, because I still have a lot of slides. Can we move on? And
perfect timing. That's our last question right now. And yep, thank you.
Okay, okay. Okay, so the next topic is reciprocity. The rule says that you should try to repay in kind what another person has provided you. Take a look at this little caricature because I like it. Okay, so here is an example. People return holiday cards to people they do not know. I read about an experiment in a college setting, and it was a class in psychology, and the professor said, look, I want to see to what extent people are willing to reciprocate. So the professor gave out holiday cards to the students in the class. Every student, let's say, received 20 holiday cards. They received an envelope and the card and said, look, here's what I want you to do. You go and do the first page of your white pages. You remember, guys, white pages, the telephone book, in other words? We used to have something like that. And what does that have? That has a name, the address, and the telephone number, right? So he said, you take the first page of your local white pages, take the name and the address and put it on the envelope. Make sure that you put your own address as a sender. Once you finish this, bring it back. Our administrative assistant will put stamp on it, will send it out. But what we are asking you is this. If somebody sends you back a card, bring it in. We want to count it so we know how many people reciprocated. Well, the story is that there was a significant number of people that were able to bring back cards they received from other people. Of course, the sender did not know who he's sending this to. It's not a relative, it's not a friend, it's just at random a person from the telephone directory. Now, I don't know about you, but I will admit to you, if I'm getting a holiday card from somebody I don't know, I'm not one that I will reciprocate, but evidently there are many people that do. I don't know how many people you remember. I haven't seen this for a long time. You remember the Hare Krishna Society? Many, many, many years ago, on the street, at the airport, whatever, somebody dressed like the gentleman here in this picture comes to you and, with a smile, and they have a little flower and they give you the flower, kind of, who is this person? Why am I getting a little rose or whatever? Okay, so I feel like giving them $1 and so forth, and I move on, right? Or they give you books or something like that. Because it is known, somebody gives you something, you feel like you need to pay, you need to reciprocate. They want the dollar. They want your money. That's what they do. Sometimes you go to stores and they give you free samples. Whole Foods on a weekend. Rest assured, there is somebody there giving you samples, right? Why do they give food away? They want you to buy their product. Do you remember the return labels I pulled out? By the way, I still have mine, and I have here, I can show you, I have plenty. These are 20 years old or whatever. I don't know why. All of a sudden, I received in the mail, you know, these return address labels. I still have them. Of course, send them a few dollars, you know, that's fine. They do this because they know that so out of 100 that they send out, so many people will send money back. So what are the tips for job seekers? Smart networkers offer help in anticipation of being reciprocated. When you network, don't ask what you can get, ask what you can give. Every time you give, somebody will give you back. It may not be instantly, it may be down the road, but certainly people feel that you help me, I want to help you. Actually, a pleasant surprise happened to me this week. There is an individual that calls me occasionally, has some significant issues. All of a sudden, the individual is sending some money. I did not want to take money. I'm happy to help. But the individual felt that evidently the help I did was valuable and I received some money. So yes, it's happening. The third influencer is about herd behavior. And what I'm saying here is this: when people are uncertain, they are trusting the collective knowledge. If you don't know about something, you say, well, if I don't know it, other people may know it. Example, why do they use canned laughter on TV and radio show? I don't know about you, but for me, this is so very annoying. You know, you listen to a show and all of a sudden some people laugh in the background. I didn't think it was funny, but they do. They want to convince you, because if everybody is laughing, oh, they must know something I don't know. It must have been funny. You go to a Starbucks or to a bar or whatever, and invariably you see a jar with some money there. Why do they keep the money in the jar? Why not in the drawer? Because they want to hint you. The other people give money, so they expect you to give also some money. You go to a restaurant. They always say most popular, this is a special, Amazon call it Amazon choice. They want to draw you there, because if everybody is buying this particular item from Amazon, perhaps this is what you should buy too. I can tell you a kind of a personal story about this. Many of you don't know, but that's a fact. While I was in college during the summer, I worked in a restaurant. They called me chef. I wasn't a chef. I was a cook at best, but they called me chef. So I created the menu and I put special leftovers from yesterday because I wanted to push it. I wanted to get rid of it. So I put it on the menu. I reduced the price and I called the special of the day, and they bought it. So I want to influence them. Tip for job seekers. When job searching, distinguish yourself instead of blending in. We have this attitude that if everybody's stopping at that particular restaurant, which is you cannot find a parking lot available there, next door there is another restaurant with only 3 cars, you're still looking for a spot in the restaurant where it's full. Why? I mean, logic says park somewhere where it's easy to park. No, if everybody's going to that restaurant, something must be good about it. So I'm trying to draw from that into your situation as a job seeker. Don't try to be like the other people that interview. Be different. Stay away from being like everybody else. Distinguish yourself. You are a football player. You are a speaker. You received an award. Highlight it. You are different. Any comments at this point? And anything we talked about, does this apply to you?
There's nothing in chat at the moment, but folks will pause for a moment. Oh, you want to just...
We will have time at the end. I want to go to my slides. Okay. The fourth topic is attraction and familiarity. And what I'm saying here is we prefer to say yes to someone or something we are familiar with, right? So my example is this. In my neighborhood, there is a cute young lady here, really young. She is active in the Girl Scout organization, and once or twice a year, she rings our doorbell and she's asking us, do you want cookies? Now, we don't eat cookies in this household. So the answer is no, but just wait a second. I bring her $10, I give her $10, and I know that next year she's coming back again. You know, so why do we give this young little girl $10? She's a neighbor. If an individual comes to my house that I have no idea who they are, asking for money, I'm not the one that I will give. But we've lived here for 18 years. We know the parents, we know the kid. You know, let's be nice and let's give her a little bit money. A hint for job seekers. Ask for AIR, air, not for a job. Ask for advice, introductions, and referrals. It's easy to remember. From people inside the company, especially those that know you. They know you. They will not refuse you. So approach these people, ask them for advice, see if they're willing to make an introduction. If they're kind enough to do that, see if they're willing to even refer you. That's a huge help. Another tip, ask for job search information from people whose opinion you trust. For example, let's say you move to a new town and you happen to need a dentist or another doctor. What are you going to do? Are you going to just Google it or open the yellow pages? Hopefully not. Perhaps you find somebody, a friend, a neighbor, somebody that can refer you to somebody they trust. Recently, I was considering doing in my house something with the electrical system. I don't know an electrician, but I went to several neighbors and I asked them, by the way, have you used an electrician? And I received several names. Actually, one was saying, the one in your town, don't touch. They're expensive. So again, I went and I asked for information that was very valuable for me. Now, here is an interesting story. I found on Netflix a series of episodes. It was called Brain Games. Brain Games. I love that show, Brain Games. By the way, I found out it's no longer on Netflix. It's on what is it called? Apple Plus. Help me out. What is it called? Apple Plus, something like that. Nancy said something, but I didn't hear. Apple Premium. I don't know.
Apple TV Plus.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I found it there. So here is what I found there. Impressive-looking people have an advantage in social interaction by creating this halo effect. So you're asking, Alex, what this stupid mailbox there? I couldn't get the picture from that episode, but they showed us something. Two people were standing adjacent to this United States Postal Office box. One was a kind of, you could see, why did they put this here? Because we all know what is the height of this box. So to the left of this box, there stood a young man. I would characterize him good-looking, handsome, kind of a good-looking young man. To the right side of this box, there was a short-statured young man with a jacket, I remember. The question they asked the audience, which one of these two is the manager? The great majority of the people said the short person with the jacket. Okay. Fact is, the other person was the manager. Oh, no, forgive me. No, in the opposite. Everybody said the good-looking young man was the manager. The fact was, the short-stature guy was the manager. So it's deceiving. You think that somebody, just because he's good-looking, if I may use the term, that's why they are the manager. And in fact, this is not so. Attractive people are more apt to get help when they need it. So the same program had an episode. It was filmed in a very busy place in Manhattan, and they took two actors. There was an older gentleman. Again, these are both actors. So they walk in lower Manhattan. It's a very, very, very busy place, and they pretend that they slip and they fall. And in the audience, there were people with a timer to see how many seconds it takes for someone to go to that elderly gentleman and offer some help. Then the next day, they did the same exercise, but they brought in a young, good-looking, attractive lady. And they did exactly the same exercise. And they were timing how long does it take for someone to offer help. It was blatantly clear. The gentleman was sitting on the floor after he fell off for a much, much longer time than the young lady that slipped. So again, looks, being attractive helps. How does this help you as a job seeker? Make sure that when you are video interviewing, your studio-like setup is optimal. Look at these two pictures on the left. Same person. I am certain you like not the one on the left, but the one in the middle. And the same thing to the two picture on the right. In other words, the image that you're creating on your video should be a good image. It's important. Attractive people show favorability when hiring. I mean, we all have experience with that. We all know that. I mean, anyhow, to move fast, any comments on attraction and familiarity that you have you had such experience? And again, we're talking only about this segment, attraction and familiarity. Have you had anything like this? I wish to hear from you.
Just looking real quickly, there is one comment from Michelle. The law of reciprocity may be coming into play more than the law of attractiveness.
The combination of the two, absolutely. Michelle, you're a smart lady, I told you that. You combine the two and you're absolutely right.
But Alex, if you'd like to move along, I guess that's
perfectly
fine.
I would. Okay, the fifth one is authority. We are conditioned to obey authority figures such as parents or teachers. I don't think there is dispute here. We know that because we remember our childhood. So here is an interesting story I saw. People respect authority more when it is demonstrated rather than simply claimed. And the example they gave is this. They positioned the gentleman dressed in a police uniform in front of an ATM machine. This is a part of the entrance to the bank. And they put a sign on the ATM machine that says, "Very sorry, the ATM machine is out of order. Please deposit your money with the policeman." And, remotely, there were people in a van with a camera watching, how many people follow the instructions. Now, again, I don't know about you, but I will tell you what I would do. I would never give my money just because a policeman stands there. But amazingly, the evidence is some people said, "Oh, he's a policeman, he's a person with authority. The sign says, give the money to the policeman with the intent that he will deposit the money." Of course, the people were returned the money and they were told that this was just a part of the experiment. But amazingly, people are just following orders. You told me to give the money to somebody that represents for me an authority. He is a policeman after all, right? So they gave the money. Authority is extended into social media. If people think that you are important, so will Google. So my suggestion to you is this: make friends with social media power users who can promote your content. You may recognize some names here. You may recognize some faces here. Okay, these are people that I know. They are incredibly popular on social media. So associate yourself with these people, because it will imply, if these people like you, they have so many connections that automatically you'll be relevant to other people that are connected to them. If people like your message or ask to connect with you, you must have influenced them positively. Take it as a compliment. Evidently, you did something right. Tip for job seekers: associate yourself with someone considered an authority. For example, by clerking for a famous judge or reporting to a senior executive or CEO. If you say on your resume, "I reported to the CEO," that automatically infers you must have had a big position. That's the way it is. It could be that in the entire organization, there are 3 people: the CEO, you, and another employee. But just the fact because you reported to the CEO, that already means you must be very important. What other people say about you is more important than what you say about yourself. So here I want to share with you something. In the American culture, is rather common to kind of give yourself compliments. Okay, it's accepted. I'm not saying you should change, but I just want to give you advice how to do it better. Don't say, "I'm an interview preparation coach, and by the way, I'm very good at it." People will not believe me. But if I share with you that in the last 14 days, I had 3 people land because they worked with me, well, perhaps that may influence you positively. So instead of praising yourself, bring facts and evidence about others that validate what you wanted to say initially. Change from being a generalist to being a specialist, because that change will convey the authority employers are seeking. And I have to tell you, I caught on to this very, very early on when I started being a career coach. I declared myself early on that I am a career coach. And I have to admit to you, my business wasn't booming. And given sometimes, I came to conclusion that I'm a kind of a jack of all trades. When I decided to narrow my services to being an interview preparation coach, In direct relationship, my business improved because they are seeking that specialty, not just a career code, but something very special. So here what I'm saying is, for example, if you say I'm a medical doctor, I'm a family practitioner, I'm sure you'll make money, but not exceptionally good money. However, if you say, by the way, I went to medical school, I am a doctor, and my specialty, I decided to specialize in surgery, even further on, I am operating only on the human brain and only on the right side of the human brain. I never touch the left side of the human brain. Now you'll have plenty of things to do because people will come to you. By publishing, you are intuitively considered an authority, thus influential. That is the reason I and many other people say, keep publishing. By you being publishing, essentially you become an influencer. You become an authority. Keep publishing. Your LinkedIn tagline should be your hook. 2 of 10 people read only the tagline. That's very, very impactful. Out of 10 people, only 2 read only the tagline. If your tagline is not attractive, not a hook, they move on. Sad, but that's true. The last subject, and we will end this with this, was people seem more motivated by the thought of losing something than by the thought of winning something. Advertisers say limited quantity, sell and soon. Think for a second. Why stores, advertisers say 5 left? You go on Amazon. I was looking for something for Amazon yesterday. Another 3 items left. Okay, they want to put a little fire under the tush for you to move fast because only 3 are left. I don't know if that's true or not. Or limited quantity, sell and soon. Yeah. Anything rare or unique becomes more valuable. Again, this is like relates to the herd behavior. Don't be like everyone else. Be unique, be different. Employers are looking for Superman. They're not looking for Mr. Average. In your interview, you need to depict somebody that is really great. Don't try to be like everybody else. Promote whatever is unique and different about you, which provides a reason to be hired. You remember I told you earlier, I am a hiring manager. When my boss is asking me, why did I decide to hire Nancy? I can't say Nancy is a nice person. I have to say because of A, B, C, D. So help them give that reason. If you happen to go to an Ivy League school, say that. That's different. If you are receiving an award, say that. By the way, if you ran 3 marathons, I would be very impressed with you. I have never gone to a marathon. So, you know, my point is show people that you are different and better. And we got to the end. Okay. So in conclusion, I want to hear from you. What are the takeaways? What messages of this presentation apply you? And in the meantime, I want to put up just for a few seconds, here is my contact information. I will take that off, you know, very shortly. But think about what are your takeaways? What the messages that you listened to me just about an hour? What have you learned?
And thank you, Alex. I did also post your contact information in chat. So if someone wants to look for it there, or if they only write down half your phone number when you change the slide, at least it will still be in chat.
Okay, good. David, if I take off the share, will I be able to see everybody or no?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, certainly it can be easier to see everyone. And what you may want to do also is change your view from everyone to active cameras.
okay,
That way
yeah,
you'll see only the faces that have activated their camera.
okay.
So,
Can you
sorry?
take off the share? Oh, I know what to do here.
Yeah, don't press the leave button. There you go. Perfect.
No, not yet. Okay, let's see. What did I do here?
So probably above all of the faces or people, there's a little tab. Maybe it says view everyone. You can change that to active cameras. So the people that have their cameras off, you don't see those squares with their initials.
Okay, you have the cameras, but you know what I see, David? Princeton Technology Advisors. Oh, here, good. I got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's my account that we're using, which is why you see the name of Princeton Technology.
Yeah, technology is not always the thing
So
that I'm
folks,
good
if you have a
Okay.
final comment or two for Alex, I also invite you, might just be easier at this point, unmute your microphone and make your comment, and just be aware you may accidentally be stepping over someone who's already speaking, so then just wait your turn.
I love when I make a presentation and at the end I said, are there any questions? And people are quiet. I don't know, I might be wrong, but my implication is I made a perfect presentation, no questions whatsoever. Everybody understood everything, so I take it as a compliment. Perhaps it's not warranted, but that's how I am.
It could also mean, like you, Alex, they can't find the microphone button.
So Alex, thank you for this great presentation. A lot to think about. You mentioned something about reciprocity, about entering in a networking event with the other party in mind. So how do you overcome being taken advantage of? We all have been in a situation where we felt that essentially some people are exploiting the natural tendency to reciprocate, to take advantage of others. How do you protect yourself?
Yeah.
Because in a job search you are being vulnerable, and you really have to be careful.
Okay. What's the right pronunciation of your name, Jean?
Jean, yes, it's French for John, yes.
Yeah, okay, Jean, you and I meet at the Princeton Public Library, you remember the good old times. And so I come to you and I say, Jean, what brought you here? And answer, role play with me, answer. What brought you here?
Well, I came to meet other like-minded individuals to see how we could be of help to each other.
Oh, no, that's great. Actually, all the other people are here for the same reason. Are you working right now?
I'm on the hunt.
Say it again.
I'm on the hunt. So I'm between opportunities, yes.
Yeah. By the way, what is your expertise? What's your line of business?
I am in risk management.
Risk management. Oh, wait a second. Risk management. I have a good friend, Bruce Wentworth. Bruce is also in risk management. Come here. I want to introduce you. Bruce, this is Jean. Jean is now hunting for position. Why don't you guys talk? Bruce, I'm sure you can help Jean.
Hey, Jean.
Jean, Jean, do you see what happened here? I'm trying to be helpful to you. I don't want anything from you, but I'm giving you helpful information. That's my job. When I network, my job is to give you information. Perhaps 2 years down the road, you say, Alex, because you put me in touch with Bruce, 3 months later, I became employed. Something like that. So when you go networking, think about what you can do for others. One day, somebody will reciprocate.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
There are also a couple of comments in the chat, Alex, so I'll just read them. One is from Valerie that she has a takeaway. And the takeaway is provide a story when answering a question so you provide additional context. So that's something of value that she took from this discussion.
Yeah, Valerie, thank you for coming today and making this contribution.
And Jim had an answer to your question. So during an interview, you need to stand out to be the expert or the quote Superman and not just answer the question well.
Correct. That's a comment. Am I so? That's not a
Yes.
question.
Right, that's a comment. Don't answer it yes or no.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of comments of thanks. So people certainly appreciate your meeting today and your presentation today. Of course, thank you, Alex.
You know, Alex, a starting slide I would have put in to this deck just after seeing the whole totality of it. As we know, most people are not good interviewers, let alone interviewees. So influencing people is, you can do it in a couple, I would think a couple different ways, right? One is to impress them with something you did. That's one way to influence them. Another is just to shock them. And the third is to talk like, if I'm gonna and type it into the chat window. If you had to say one thing that you've done or you wanted to influence an interviewer right now, what could you say that would immediately pique their interest? Now think about what we've all just gone through. What have we all just gone through? What would be one of the first things that you could bring up? And I'll use Jean. I'm going to use you as an example. What's one thing you could say that would immediately perk their ears up?
So to play along, one of the challenges I've been having is that obviously my area, I'm a specialist in this area, but the thing is that the interview process involves going through hoops. So if I want to protect, like for instance, part of my job, I had to handle a crisis where, let's say, somebody died at work. Now, I said that to somebody in HR, they freaked out because, first of all, they didn't understand the nature of what I do. But if I was to say the same thing to the hiring manager, it might have a different effect. So I think the challenge is that, how do you calibrate? Because in entering a discussion with somebody in HR, you never know how well they understand the job they're trying to solve.
So let me put it to you this way. If you're in risk management, one of the things that, and I've actually talked about this in my webinar, one of the things that has been exposed over the last 18 months in this thing that you might have heard of called COVID is that the supply chain had problems galore that had been masked forever. Mm-hmm. And for I would guess the next 5 years, people are going to work on supply chain. And one of the things I would say is if you're in risk management, I would say, boy, did your company experience problems with supply chain? Here's how I've been taking my expertise and what I've learned during COVID to make sure. So what you've done is you've taken your skill set, you've aligned it with something that they're hitting up against, which is the dynamics of COVID. And you've now put together a forward-looking statement that says, I get it. Your company is trying to figure out how you're going to operate in this new normal. Here's all of my skills. Here's how I've applied it to COVID. And you've instantly differentiated yourself from everybody else that's going to come in and say, I'm a risk manager and I know how to manage risk. Two very colossally different ways of attacking the same problem. You've now associated yourself to supply chain and COVID. That's their pain point. So to me, that's how you take these opportunities and differentiate yourself. What's their problem? Right now, their problem is COVID, amongst others, COVID and supply chain. If I'm in IT, I can align to it. If I'm in supply chain, I can align to it. If I'm in risk management, I can align to it. If I'm in audit, I can align to it. But you've suddenly used the key words. HR is going to understand supply chain and they're going to understand risk. You just bypass the whole problem, or at least you've come up with a technique to bypass the problem.
I can tell you this, that every client of mine is asked to come up with a list of uniqueness about them. And if I were to ask you guys right now, can you name me 2 possibly 3, possibly even 1 item that makes you absolutely unique. And by the way, the rule of the game is you're not allowed to brag and you're not allowed to talk about work. I am guaranteeing you 80+% of you are going to just look at me and say, Alex, I'm not able to come up even with 1. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have it. It means you are not able to think about it immediately. And that's a very big mistake, and I'll tell you why. I interviewed in my career many people, and I embarrassingly admitting to you, it happened to me more than once, that after I interviewed for 5 and 6 weeks, 4 to 7 people, I'm looking at their resume because it's time for me to make a decision. And I look at the resume and I say, David Schuckman, who is this? I must have interviewed him. His resume is here. I don't remember anything about that person. That's a huge mistake. If I, after 5 weeks or whatever, don't even remember talking with you, and I interviewed you because your resume is among the others on my desk, that means that you are absolutely vanilla flavor. There's nothing to remember about you, and that's not good. But if I remember, oh, David was an individual that when I asked him, do you have any questions for me? I cannot forget his answer. His answer was, is there anything I can do for you and your team to be rewarded when you have your yearly evaluation? Nobody else told me that, but David did. So I remember David because of that. So you need to be memorable. It's a big mistake walking away from an interview and not leaving something with them. So I want to challenge all of you that are still left here. Think about 1, 2, or 3, or possibly even more things that on the spur of the moment you can answer. There is a very common interview question. Is there anything you would like me to know about you that's not on your resume? Very common interview question. And people look like a deer in the headlights. They have nothing. So please come up with something. Oh yeah, I want to share with you about XYZ.
And to back that up and to give you something that's tangible for what Alex is saying. I mean, mine's easy, right? I got my last name. I know to this day, this year, when I've told people I've had a YouTube channel, I get the same response every time. You have a YouTube channel? Instantly, you've taken yourself out of the muck and mire and put yourself here. I'm going to pick on Nancy only because Nancy's our resident background person, right? At a minimum, right, Nancy could say, I've been exploring how different backgrounds work in Zoom. Instantly, she's done something that is going to stick in some way, shape, or form because and it's a very simple thing. George, YouTube, Nancy, background, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be complicated. If you go back and think of all of these different interview prep things, oh, do you have your star format? Do you have your top 20 questions? Blah, 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 blah. You're programmed to go in, from my opinion, as a bot when you answer these. So now think about this scenario. You've got an interviewer that hasn't been trained. You're trying to answer these questions. You're trying to figure out a little bit about the company. And you're, as Alex said, you're basically vanilla. To me, I'm walking in the front door, I'm kicking the front door in and saying, look, I'm George, I got a YouTube channel, I'm current on technology, I talk about disruption, and I'm breaking that mold on before we even get to question 2. Simply because they're going to remember. Now, they may or may not like it, and guess what? If they don't like it, I probably don't want to work there anyway. So to me, don't be afraid, it's go in and be you.
George, you deviated a little from my rule. Because you talked about yourself and you talked about work. I ask all my clients, come up with a list of things that makes you unique and special. It has nothing to do with work. and you're not allowed to brag, or at least don't make it sound like you're bragging. Okay, it's difficult, George. This is difficult.
But I got a mull on that one. I got to chew on that one because I think they're looking for personality as well, right?
Okay.
I think you gotta. I think you have to blend some personality. I think you do have a value prop, right? Because if I said, well, I'm really good at communication, what does that mean, right? I could come up with those values, but it's maybe important to them, but I haven't differentiated myself.
Okay, George, please ask me, Alex, what's special about you?
Alex, what's special about you?
Well, there are several things that come to my mind. I happen to speak 5 languages, and that's because I lived on 3 continents. But forget that. About 4 years ago, I had an unusual event happen. I was able to save my neighbor's life once I saw 3 feet flames come out of his kitchen. Now, do you think the person listening to me will leave this alone? Oh my God, you really saved his life? What happened? So all of a sudden, we are into a memorable discussion. All of you, unquestionably, all of you have something that it's stored in the head, in the back of your head. You don't think about it, but something that can lead to a conversation.
And I'm going to challenge you on this one, Alex, only because right now where I'm at, we've been trying to hire a specific role. It's a data architect at the end of the day. And I can tell you, we've seen interesting things, but at the end of the day, with budgets being where they are and being able to slot that singular person, it's been the focus on can you get the job done? And we've had people that have done things to try and make themselves memorable, but they can't do the job. So,
George, you're absolutely correct. Nobody is going to ask you, okay, let's start the interview. George, what's special about it? No. The interviews tell me about yourself, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and 45 minutes into the interview said, so George, I need to wrap it up. I have a meeting to go to job. Is there anything else you want to tell me that we haven't covered and it's not a part of your resume?
Okay, that's fair. Then that's fair. Okay.
Okay.
So Alex, before we wrap up, there is one more question in chat from Amitava, and she thanks you, or he thanks you, I'm not sure. How do you suggest to keep one's mind motivated during job search?
Well, I'm an interview coach. I'm not a psychologist. Perhaps there are psychologists here with us. How do you keep yourself motivated? One easy answer would be do things at a baby step pace. George, excuse me for using your name, but sure. At a baby step pace, do things that keep you happy. Every person has those. You may like to read a book, you want to speak with a friend, you want to go swimming, you want to buy yourself something. Do something that makes you happy. Because otherwise you're in a down spiral. Nothing works that day. I don't feel like looking for a job. The hell with the job. So keep yourself. Do something that makes you happy. That's the only answer I have.
Great, thank you, Alex. So what I'd like to let you know is we're going to wrap up, I guess, the formality of the meeting in just 1 minute or two, but we're going to keep this session open for other lively discussions. Alex, you're welcome to stick around with us as long as your schedule allows, and that's true for all of us. We'll keep it open for a little while. But Alex, as always, thank you so much. You are one of the biggest supporters of people in career transition and job search. It's always a treat when you can enlighten us a bit, and we certainly appreciate your lively and fun presentation. So thank you so very much.
David, just while we have everyone on before they go, just a quick question. Let's just pick a month, December, January, February, next month. If we were to quote unquote, if there was an opportunity to meet live in person, how many of you would come? Just doing a quick, you can type in the chat. If it were in person, how many would come?
A couple people raised their hand.
Yeah, put it in the chat.
George, you have to qualify indoor meeting or outdoors meeting.
Indoor. Let's say back at the days in.
While you're waiting on that, I just want to chime in real quick. Alex, I actually had an interview, and it was for a strategic operations role. And one of the things or the feedback that I got from someone was that I didn't brag enough about myself. And so I think the bragging depends on the role. She said I came off as somebody who's like a team player and, you know, supportive of my team and will come up with ideas, but it was always in a team setting. Whereas that role, they really wanted somebody who could take a blank sheet of paper and fly with it. So they wanted me to say, this is what I did, I, and I thought that was really interesting. So I think it does depend on the role of, you know, when you brag and when you don't.
Valerie, it's a matter of opinion. Some people like it, some people dislike it. If you work with a person from the Far East, they will never brag. They will never brag. It's a cardinal rule. They will never brag. So if you want them to brag and you interview someone from the Far East, this person will fail brutally. It's a matter of opinion.
And that's true also for the people like from Africa also. The culture is not to show that you can do. The culture is to fit into the community. You know, if you say, I did something, you say, we did something. So that's a challenge, you know, breaking that cultural barrier as well.
You have to remember certainly that, you know, Alex and all the people that give presentations and advice are letting us know best practices, and typically best practices when you interview in the United States, because Alex certainly has global experience. But one of the things that become very important is, and nothing is 100%, like Alex is saying, it doesn't work for everybody. But if you can do a little bit of investigation and understand who it is you'll be interviewing with or who'll be interviewing you, you may get an insight into how to better prepare specifically for that case. And I think that's something Alex talks about all the time. So I want to thank you folks again for, and George, you can see there's a mix of answers. There's some yeses and some nos and some maybes.
I kind of figured that was
you know, the bottom line for the Breakfast Club, and of course I'm giving my opinion as just one of the people who participate on the leadership, you know, we're driven by what the guidelines of the state and the CDC are going to say, what the Days Inn hotel will allow us to do. One of the discussions we did have is, well, what if they open up the conference room at 50% capacity and 51% of the people show up? You know, so how do we manage that? So there's things that as a group we'd be considering when we think it may be right in general. And still, people may choose their own direction at the weeks or months in advance.
Well, the only thing I was thinking about, David, just thinking out loud, I sent actually you and Jerry a note on last night. The idea was I kind of expected to see the answers I saw. And, you know, one of the ideas here is in a post-COVID world, we never did this prior, but do we start thinking about doing hybrid meetings where if we were at the Days Inn?
So, George, let's take that offline.
Okay.
You know, I'm active in other groups. I've considered that as well. There are logistics that have to be managed for that. Let's take that off. So folks, thank you so much. I'm so glad you were all able to join Alex this morning for the Breakfast Club New Jersey meeting. Alex, once again, thank you. And we will be right back here again next month. Breakfast Club always meets on the second Saturday morning of the month. The next second Saturday will be Saturday, October 9th at 8 o'clock in the morning. Lisa Magnocchi will be here. She's such a joyful presenter, wonderful style, very perky. You will come out very happy from talking with her, but her presentation, Presence Intelligence. She will be talking about being in the moment and projecting properly and reading the other person. So may help you with some of those interview questions as well. So that's who will be presenting next month. Hope you can join us then. Look for the email notice, for the meetup notice, and the other ways that we stay in touch. If you are visiting us for the first time, please visit thebreakfastclubnj.com and join the group. There's a join button, and we will get you all the information you need to join right away. So until we get to see you next week, whether it's virtually or in person at George's house, we will simply say, oh no, that's not the case. Don't go to George's house. He was just asking the question. But whether we see you in person someplace out in town or virtually at a next meeting, simply say, bye everybody.